Poppy's return. The last gambit when Poppy re-entered the tangled web of the Forresters, Logans, and Spencers. No one expected her to be the earthquake that would shake every foundation. But that's exactly what she is, an earthquake disguised as a mother. Her return isn't just about love or regret. It's about control. It's about leverage. And in the bold and the beautiful, leverage is everything. She came back with one goal: to protect Luna. Her daughter is sitting in a cold jail cell, wrapped up in a scandal that could stain her for life, and Poppy isn't about to let her go down without a fight. But this isn't just maternal instinct, it's Poppy instinct. Because no one knows better than her that secrets have value. Especially old secrets. The kind of secrets people pay for with silence, or power, or freedom. Luna's arrest sent shockwaves through every corner of the Spencer and Forrester worlds. The details are murky. The case is messy. But there's enough smoke to make Luna a symbol, a scapegoat, a headline. The press is sniffing around, and Steffi, for all her steel, is already feeling the pressure. That's where Poppy sees her opening. Because where others see crisis, she sees negotiation. The first move was subtle, a prison visit. Mother and daughter finally alone. Luna, confused, betrayed, desperate. Poppy, calm but calculating. She tells her daughter that she's going to fix it, that she'd do whatever it takes. But her tone isn't soft. It's surgical. Because Poppy knows that fixing it means getting her hands dirty. Again, Poppy doesn't just walk into Bill Spencer's office. She glides. Like a ghost from a past he never fully buried. He's stunned. They haven't spoken face-to-face in years, but the memory is still raw. And what she carries now could shatter him, or save him. Because there's a child. A Spencer child. One Bill never knew about. One Poppy kept hidden, not out of fear, but out of strategy. And now she's bringing it to the surface like a weapon. She doesn't spell it out right away. Instead, she lets the tension do the talking. She lays out the situation. Luna's facing time. She's a young woman with her whole life ahead of her. A Spencer by blood, possibly. That uncertainty is the point. Poppy doesn't confirm it. Not yet. But she lets the possibility hang in the air like a loaded gun. Bill is many things: ruthless, arrogant, powerful, but he's not heartless. The idea that Luna might be his daughter, it hits hard. But Poppy doesn't give him time to sit with it. She moves fast, like she always does. She offers a deal. Help Luna. Make the case disappear. Use your resources, your influence, your money. In return, maybe he gets the truth. Maybe he gets a daughter. Maybe. But the twist is sharper than anyone expected. Poppy isn't just dangling paternity, she's toying with exchange. If it comes to it, would she trade the child for Luna's freedom? Would she name Bill as the father publicly, ignite a media firestorm, and force his hand? The tabloids would explode. The boardrooms would shake. Steffi, already barely holding the Forrester legacy together, would be cornered. And that's what Poppy wants. Cornered people make desperate decisions. Steffi sees it coming. She calls Poppy into her office, tries to keep it professional, but the air crackles. Poppy isn't intimidated. She reminds Steffi that Forrester Creations can't afford another scandal, that the fashion house is still bleeding from its last public humiliation, that Luna, in handcuffs, is a PR nightmare. Poppy smiles. Sweet. Deadly. Fix it, she says. Or I will. And the truth is, Poppy will. Because she's got more than one secret up her sleeve. Not just about Luna, not just about Bill, but about the entire system of silent arrangements that hold LA's elite together. She's seen too much, been quiet too long. And now, with her daughter's life on the line, she's ready to use every piece on the board. She even floats the nuclear option, going to the press herself. One well-timed interview, one anonymous tip, one paternity test leaked to the right source. In minutes, Luna becomes cause célèbre, a wrong daughter, a victim of a broken system. And Bill Spencer becomes the negligent father, the billionaire who let his child rot in jail. It's not just Bill who feels the heat. Katie hears the rumors and confronts Poppy. Brooke tries to intervene. Rich watches from the shadows, wondering how far Poppy will go and how much of her story is actually true. But the thing about Poppy is truth and lies blur when she's talking. She believes what she needs to believe, and she makes others believe it too. At one point, even Liam begins to question everything. Could Luna be his half-sister? Could this change everything he thought he knew about his father, his family, his future? And what about Wyatt? Dollar Bill's legacy suddenly seems less solid than ever. But Poppy isn't after money. She's after time. Time for Luna. Time to undo what's been done. And if she has to burn bridges or whole empires to get it, she will. She meets with a journalist in secret, slides a file across the table. It contains everything: photos, timelines, DNA analysis that may or may not be real. It's her insurance policy, a final play if all else fails. And yet, underneath it all, the question haunts her: is this really about saving Luna or about proving something to herself? Poppy was never the stable mother. She was the wildfire, the woman who disappeared, who made mistakes, who ran. Maybe this is her last shot to make it right. Or maybe it's her last excuse to blow everything up and walk away with clean hands. The pressure builds. Luna's court date looms. Public opinion shifts. Protests outside the courthouse. Tweets go viral. Free Luna trends. Bill finally caves. He calls in favors. Quietly, discreetly, the charges begin to crumble. Evidence goes missing. Witnesses recant. The DA suddenly gets cold feet. The case collapses. Luna walks free. But freedom comes with a price. The rumors are everywhere. People whisper about her parentage, about backroom deals, about what Poppy really did. Luna confronts her mother, demands answers. Is it true? Did you give me away to save me? Poppy doesn't answer. She just hugs her daughter, tight, like it's the last time. In the shadows, Bill watches. Steffi frowns. Brooke clenches her jaw. Everyone knows the story isn't over, because Poppy's still standing. And as long as she's in the game, nothing is safe. Not the truth, not the lies, not the future. She walks out of the courthouse alone. No press conference, no tears, just a smile that says, I won. For now. But what no one knows is that Poppy still holds one less secret, one that could unravel everything. And she's saving it for the next time they forget just how dangerous a mother can be. The confession that shattered everything it was supposed to be over. Bill Spencer had maneuvered, manipulated, and controlled every piece on the board. The case against Luna was on the verge of collapse. The public had moved on. The press was chasing newer scandals. And the Spencer name was once again insulated by wealth, power, and carefully managed silence. But then just when he thought he had it all locked down, a crack split through the surface. And that crack came with a voice. A confession. Poppy wasn't supposed to be a problem anymore. She had played her part loudly, chaotically, dangerously, and then receded, seemingly satisfied with the temporary truce Bill had brokered. Luna had walked out of jail. The charges had been reevaluated, the witnesses retracted, and the headlines rewritten. Spencer's legal team had cleaned up the mess. Or so they thought. But beneath that temporary calm, Poppy had been watching, waiting, calculating. Not just as a mother, but as a survivor. She had let Bill have his moment of victory because she needed the timing to be right. And now it was. It started with a leak. A single paragraph in a late-night online article. An anonymous source. A claim that, during Luna's teenage years, there had been an incident that her mother had reported, then quickly withdrawn, a domestic altercation involving Luna and a man believed to be Spencer. The story didn't name names, but the implication was clear enough to rattle the cage. Then came the footage. Old, grainy, clearly taken from a security camera in the hallway of a clinic. Two figures, one visibly distraught, the other looming. The audio was unusable, but the body language wasn't. It showed Poppy shielding a younger Luna from a man who looked unmistakably like Bill. The clip went viral in hours. The media pounced. Social networks ignited. Hashtags emerged overnight. Protect Luna, Spencer abusalations, billionaire bullying. Spencer publications scrambled to control the damage, but the tide had turned. Questions that had been buried came back, louder and more vicious than ever. What really happened between Bill and Poppy years ago? Why had Poppy kept Luna away from him? And had Luna's arrest been retaliation for secrets Bill wanted buried? Then came the bombshell, an official affidavit submitted to the court by Poppy's attorney. It wasn't just an accusation, it was a confession. Poppy admitted that during Luna's minor years, there had been physical intimidation and repeated emotional coercion from Bill Spencer, who had been in a position of power and influence over both mother and daughter. She described one specific incident where Luna had sustained minor injuries during a confrontation over school, which Poppy claimed had escalated because of Bill's temper. It was detailed, painful, and it changed everything. Because now, the court had no choice. The confession didn't just cast doubt on Bill's character. It directly undermined the integrity of the previous proceedings. Luna's arrest, the investigation, the alleged evidence, everything had to be reevaluated through a new lens. Was she being targeted? Was this part of a pattern? Had evidence been suppressed? Or worse, planted? The judge called for an emergency hearing. Luna's legal team filed a motion to dismiss all remaining charges, citing judicial bias and prosecutorial misconduct linked to Spencer influence. The district attorney's office panicked. Investigators were pulled. Journalists flooded the courtroom. Bill, for once, had no answer. He denied everything, of course, called Poppy a liar, accused her of weaponizing motherhood to manipulate the system. But the damage was done. His credibility was shredded. No matter how loud he shouted, the whispers were louder. And the court, eager to save face, did the unthinkable. They invited both parties into private negotiations. What followed was unlike anything the legal system or the B&B world had seen before, a parenting agreement born not from love, but from exhaustion, pressure, and fear. Both sides were bleeding. Both needed to walk away with something that resembled a win. The result? A twisted compromise. Poppy would retain full custody of the baby, hers and, possibly, Bill's, though the DNA test remained sealed. In return, Bill would receive visitation rights with non-disclosure protections, a legal first that allowed him to be present without acknowledging paternity publicly. It was a deal soaked in contradiction. He could be in the child's life, but never of it. He could pay for the child's future, but never own the narrative. To the world, the child would be Poppy's alone, a symbol of survival. And to Bill, it would be a reminder of a battle he didn't quite win and a truth he could never fully bury. The arrangement was drawn in legal ink, but emotionally it was chaos. Luna, now cleared of all charges, had to face the public as both victim and victor. Her name would always be tied to scandal, no matter how innocent she had been. Poppy, having finally spoken her truth, found herself both vindicated and vilified. Some hailed her as a courageous mother. Others called her a master manipulator. Behind closed doors, she wrestled with what she had done. She had pulled the ultimate card, risked everything, damaged reputations, changed lives, all for Luna, all for a child. And now she had to raise that child alone in a city that never forgets. Bill, meanwhile, drifted further into the gray. His empire survived, but it wasn't untouched. His name had been tarnished. His family fractured. His grip weakened. Wyatt kept his distance. Liam refused to take sides. Katie avoided him. Even Brooke, no stranger to complicated men, looked at him differently now. Steffi, ever strategic, was already recalculating her alliances. The Foresters had dodged a bullet, but not without a few holes in their armor. She watched the chaos unfold with silent fury, knowing that the next scandal was always just a heartbeat away. And so, a new season loomed. One where love wasn't enough to fix what had been broken. One where a child became the hinge of a fragile peace. One where a confession, just a few pages of painful memory, appended everything. Poppy had the baby, but the price was high. Luna was free, but changed forever. Bill had partial access, but no redemption. And the bold and the beautiful. It had never been more complicated. Because in this world, victory always comes with a cost and no one walks away clean. They called it an accident. A late-night collision on a winding canyon road. No witnesses. Just twisted metal, a fire, and silence. The news broke quietly at first. Poppy Nozawa, prominent figure in recent Spencer custody case, pronounced dead at the scene. For most, it was another tragic footnote in a city built on misfortune. But those close to the truth didn't believe in coincidence. Especially not Luna. Just days earlier, Poppy had won everything, or so she thought. The court had upheld the bizarre custody compromise. She had the baby. Bill Spencer was boxed in legally, bound by non-disclosure agreements and court restrictions, unable to publicly acknowledge the child or assert control. He'd lost face, power, pride, everything that made him who he was. He had smiled in court, quiet, cold, calculating. And Poppy should have known that wasn't the end. The custody documents had barely dried when Poppy began receiving offers. Some subtle, some overt. Relocation arrangements, shared custody renegotiations, private arbitration, all wrapped in legal jargon, but none of them were about compromise. They were about leverage. Bill wanted the child. Not to raise, not to love, at least not in the conventional sense, but to possess. To own the narrative. To rewrite what had happened. To erase the confession that had humiliated him. Poppy refused every offer. She doubled her security. She withdrew from public view. She kept the baby close. But she underestimated Bill. Or rather, she underestimated what he was willing to do when he had nothing left to lose. The night of the accident, she was on her way back from a confidential meeting with a media outlet. She had proof. Voice recordings. Emails. Communications that suggested someone in Spencer's orbit had been pulling strings behind the scenes, coercing witnesses, threatening Luna's former friends, even paying off a therapist to discredit Poppy's past mental health records. She never made it to the meeting. The wreck was ruled mechanical failure. Brakes cut. Engine fire. The investigators cited a known defect, but the manufacturer denied it. The Spencer legal team stayed quiet. Bill made a public statement of condolence, somber and polished, while privately filing an emergency petition for full custody of the baby, citing Poppy's mental instability and the need for protective paternal oversight moving forward. Luna unraveled. She hadn't spoken to her mother the day she died. They had fought. A stupid argument about the future, about privacy, about whether the child should know the truth about Bill. Luna had said things she couldn't take back. Words laced with bitterness and grief and the weight of everything they'd endured. Now it was too late. The funeral was closed casket. Quiet. Luna sat alone in the front pew, her face pale, her body still. She hadn't held the baby since the accident. Bill had claimed temporary custody while the courts sorted through the aftermath. No one dared stop him. Not yet. Steffi tried to reach out. So did Ridge. Even Hope. But Luna was unreachable, locked inside a grief that didn't speak. Her mother was gone. Her child was gone. And the man who had caused it all now stood above it, untouched and touchable. For weeks, Luna wandered LA. Like a ghost. She stopped answering calls. She dropped her agency. She moved out of her apartment and refused to take anything with her. One by one, her ties to the world severed, until one day she disappeared completely. Her car was found at the edge of the Pacific Coast Highway. Door open. Her phone left on the passenger seat. Shoes folded neatly on the sand. Police conducted a search. Drones, dogs, divers, nothing. No body. Just silence. The media speculated a suicide. Friends mourned. But no one really knew what happened. The Forresters were stunned. RJ, devastated. He blamed himself for not seeing the signs, for not doing more. Steffi blamed Bill. Privately, she confronted him at his office, called him a murderer in everything but name. Bill didn't flinch. He stared her down and said, "She made her choice. I made mine." That child deserves better than a broken home built on lies. But something in his voice cracked. A flicker of something deeper guilt. Or just the knowledge that the truth never stays buried forever. Because it didn't end there. 6 months later, a letter arrived at Forrester Creations. No return address. Inside, a single photograph, Luna alive, somewhere coastal foreign holding the child. Older now. Her hair shorter. Her eyes hollow but alive. On the back, a message. He doesn't get to rewrite me. Not this time. Tell no one Steffi burned the photo. Alone. In her office. She told no one. But from that day on, she watched Bill differently. She smiled at him like nothing had changed, but something had. Because she knew now, Luna wasn't gone. She was in hiding. With her child. With Poppy's legacy. And with the truth. Bill went on playing the doting, grieving father. He funded charities in Poppy's name, spoke at women's rights galas, made appearances with the baby carefully staged, always vague. He built the narrative he wanted. The world bought it. But behind the scenes, cracks formed. Wyatt grew cold. Katie started asking questions again. Brooke refused to attend any Spencer event. And Steffi, silent and strategic, began to prepare. Because she knew Luna wouldn't stay hidden forever. And when she returned, it wouldn't be to forgive. The next season would begin with Luna's reappearance. Stronger, harder, with documents, with allies. Maybe even with recordings of the night her mother died. She would return not as a victim, but as a force. To expose the truth. To reclaim her child. To finish what Poppy started. And Bill. Bill would finally face the one thing he feared more than losing, being known for who he truly is. Because in the bold and the beautiful, justice doesn't always come through the courts. It comes through the return of the wronged. Through legacy. Through blood. And sometimes it comes through a daughter raised in grief with a mother's fire burning in her bones.